All right, guys, welcome to the second episode of the Heart and Hustle Podcast. On this podcast, we talk about heart, but we also talk about hustle. I could not be more enthusiastic about today's guest. I'm bringing somebody who is a true OG to me. When I first moved to Vegas in 2012, this was the president of the fraternity that I rushed for, and instantaneously, I could see that he had the heart for everything that he was doing. He's one of the best friends that you could possibly ask for. But more importantly, since then, I've seen him grow as an entrepreneur and just seriously implement the entire modality of hustling. Today on today's episode, we've got Lionel Miranda. Thanks for coming, dog.
What's up? How you doing, Keenan?
Good,
man.
Thanks for coming, G.
What's going on, everybody?
Oh, man. So, Lionel, bro, you are a straight inspiration. Real talk. Dog, ever since I came across you when I was at UNLV, I was like, this kid just has a head for success. You come from humble beginnings. And ever since, I moved to Hawaii a couple of years ago, I've been seeing you just ascend in your entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you.
And so I really want to kind of just give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself to the crowd, everybody who's watching today, and talk about your background as well.
Cool. But before I do that, I just want to say, likewise to you. Yeah. So I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you putting this together. Yeah. And I'm glad that we kept in touch, even though you moved to Hawaii, and we're still in touch still today.
Absolutely, man.
So dig into the background a bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. So again, Lionel Miranda. I'm born in Las Vegas, Nevada. My dad's actually from the Philippines, Manila. He moved here by himself at the age of 14.
Wow.
From Manila to Hawaii, Oahu. And they grew up in a spot called Whitmore Village. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that area?
Not really.
Were you on Oahu?
Yeah, I was on Oahu.
Okay. So very central of the island. A lot of projects over there now. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, a lot of homeless living underneath the bridges and freeways or stuff like that. So this type of area where you're just driving by some nice bushes, but if you really peek in, you'll see tent cities in there. So for my mom to come from that background, for my dad to come from a really impoverished area, I think them coming to Vegas, where I was born, and they've told me was for opportunity, right? My dad also introduced me to the fact that he was heavily involved in drug dealing at the time, and that there was straight up just meth heads coming to my grandma's house where the family lived and he lived. So she wanted to get him out of the island elsewhere so people stopped bugging them and messing with the fam or potentially getting himself or the family into any harm or trouble.
Right.
So with that said, ended up in Vegas. They first initially moved right behind MGM into a studio apartment with my brother, my sister, my mom, and dad. So literally just 4 people sleeping on top of each other. And then gladly, 2 years after that, my grandpa bought a house in Las Vegas that they moved into. And I'm so thankful that it was actually in Henderson, Nevada, where we're located right this instance. And, it was cool for me, basically being the one in my family to grow up in a nice neighborhood from the get-go, but also learn the hardships that my parents had to go through from the start as well, right? So nothing was really handed to me, even though a lot of the friends in my neighborhood had that opportunity. Nothing was really given to me as far as nice things or nice cars go, even though a lot of the people in my neighborhood had that, right? So you're talking about new homeowners in Henderson in the 90s when it was the nicest part of Las Vegas before Summerlin even sprouted. Pretty affluent families, new cars, nice stuff. And then my family were coming from a studio apartment and in the situations I just spoke about into this new neighborhood that my grandpa purchased the house. So although we lived in a nice spot, we were still coming from nothing.
Tough times.
So had to fuse myself into the people around me because I didn't really get them or understand them growing up, or nor did I think they understood me and where I came from.
And was that so, we share a lot of common background. We both come from families that have had hardship in our past. Right? Me and my dad the other day were talking about the fact that my great-grandfather was a sharecropper. Right. My grandfather grew up in the 30s in the United States, was discriminated against, racism, all that kind of stuff. Now, my father took the steps to, start an entrepreneurial journey and a culture within my family. And now I'm kind of standing on his shoulders. One thing that I've always really appreciated about you is your recognition for where you came from and recognizing that hard work really kind of will put you anywhere. That's been the vibe that I picked up on you since the very beginning. And that's something I've always appreciated about you.
Yeah, I saw your post the other day about appreciating your pops and then your grandpa and your great grandpa and seeing, how far each generation has come along. So I am no fool to that, and I want to learn the history. October 2018, I actually took my dad back to Manila.
No way.
Ever since he's been living in Vegas, he's been working what we consider low-end jobs here in the United States, but for them, pretty good jobs, right? You can have a decent house, an old car, but it still works, right? It's still able to send a couple $100 back home or something. So my whole life, I always thought to myself, damn, my dad's not like the VP of a company or this and that, like all my other friends' parents are. But then what I got to realize is he took the liberty of leaving where the situation he was in and coming to a whole nother country by himself at 14. Yeah. At 14, I think I was probably still scared to fly alone. Yeah. Let alone to another country where I can barely speak the language. So yeah, definitely got to put some respect on that and give credit where credit is due. And for a long time, I had to stop blaming my parents for the situation I was in and just understand that I can actually take control. And
so when did that start happening? Because that's been a big part of my maturation journey, is recognizing that I have ultimate accountability for my success, right? And I think it's so easy when we're younger to kind of blame the people who we stand on top of, to be like, why aren't we doing these things? Or we should have more stuff. So when was that kind of realization? Was it early for you?
Man, no, not even that early. I feel like I blamed them for a long time, or I was mad at them for a long time, right? I guess a couple examples as a kid, everyone in my neighborhood is playing Little League baseball. I'm playing with them in the streets, but never in the leagues. And I always wanted to play in the leagues, but my parents would say, hey, we can't afford it. So that's an example of me wanting something, but can't really having it because I was too, I didn't have a job. I was young. When I get into high school, a little later on in life, everyone's pulling up in a new whip for their 15th, 16th birthday. I didn't even get my first car until I was 19 in college. I used some of my student loan money to purchase it. So I went through 4 years of high school without a car, bumming rides off people and stuff. And I'd always blame my parents, damn, they didn't save up enough money this year to buy me a car like all my friends got for their birthday. Right. Or they didn't put me in sports the way that I wanted to. So even though I enjoy them and I'm playing in high school, everyone's just a little bit better than me because they had the opportunity to play for a couple of years in their life before they got to high school. But yeah, I think end of high school maybe, or beginning of college is when I started to realize, okay, I'm old enough to get a job now. I'm not going to play sports forever. It's up to me to now go figure out how I can get this money, get my own car, right? It's not their job to get me a car. I was thinking that they should give me one because everyone around me had that opportunity. And
everybody else had that mindset as well, though. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I had to stop comparing myself to other people around my neighborhood, around me in my neighborhood, my environment. And then as an adult or early early adult years, realize I have to take control of the things I want and go get it myself, because it's truly not their fault that I didn't have those things. I was just comparing myself to those around me. Yeah.
So when you have that paradigm shift, right, of recognizing that okay, this is all on my shoulders, was that a scary feeling that you had back in the day, or what was that experience like?
Yeah. When I was, okay, I'm going to touch on two stories right now that I think will bring us full circle to what you're asking. Yeah. You're asking if it felt scary to take that leap or what kind of pressure that came with it. When I was 16 years old, my parents got officially divorced. They'd been split up, they split up multiple times throughout my childhood, but they actually got divorced at that time. Because they have a background of not having a lot of money, and then mix that in with a little bit of gambling addiction, alcoholism, and substance abuse. When it came to tax season, my mom was saying, if your dad asks you for your social security number, don't tell him.
Yeah.
My dad was saying to my mom, or to me, hey, don't listen to your mom about anything that has to do with your social security number.
Yeah.
Give it to me and I'll buy you a car. That was like the that was like the bribe right there.
Yeah.
And as a 14, was it sophomore year? So I was probably 15 years old, 15 or 16, 15 years old, let's say. I didn't understand what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
I never thought about taxes back then. I barely had my first job.
Yep.
But when I started to ask around, like, why are they telling me these things? They don't just bring these things up for no reason. People started hinting at that are older than me. They're trying to claim you on their taxes, get some extra money.
Right.
So what I realized at 16 was that neither of them even really wanted me at the time for me. They only wanted me for the money.
Right.
So at that point, I actually left both of their houses, moved into my brother's house at 16, where he had a spare bedroom, and I was kind of living on my own.
Yeah.
My brother, I then moved in with my sister as I was going in at 18 years old. And my sister at that point ended up starting to have to take care of my dad because he was slumping. They ended up having a kid, her and her husband at the time, and then they had me.
Right.
So they were taking care of their own kid, my pops, and me. So the moment I turned 18, her husband actually sat me down and said, hey, you're an adult now.
Yeah.
I think it's time that you start working full time, taking care of yourself, getting your own spot, getting your own car, starting to save up. He basically gave me a deadline to figure my life out because he was going to kick me out. And he says, I'm not doing this because I don't like you.
Yeah.
I love you. I love having you around. I do this because I like you. And this is going to be the one lesson that teaches you, more than what you can learn ever about being an adult. He's like, I did it myself when I was 18, and he's not the most successful person. So like, I know that you can do it.
Yeah.
Right. So they basically gave me a deadline. I had to move out of the house around my 18th birthday. And that's when I did it, dude. Got the job, went into school, used some of my student loan money to buy my first car. Was accountable for paying bills and utilities every month. And I just graduated high school just a few months before that. So Was it scary? Definitely. But I did have people like that tell me, like, I've done this too. And they're young with kids and trying to stay afloat. So if I can do this too, you can do it. So people believed in me, which was a great thing. And I knew I had resources from both the job that I had at the time and I had student loans I could pull out. Even though I'd have to pay them back later, I still am to this day. Yeah. I knew that would help me figure out my situation at the time. So it helped ease the nervousness I was getting myself into when I was 18.
Yeah. I mean, that feeling of going out on your own, but also recognizing that it's kind of sink or swim at such a young age is pivotal. And I can see, as your friend, kind of those early forced maturity days and how they've kind of shaped you. Because the one thing I've recognized is you've always been a go-getter. You've always been consistently hustling, and you've never really relied on anybody. You know what I mean? The one bone I do have to pick today with a lot of kids who are out here acting like they're independent is they're not really independent. You know what I mean? And I see Gary Vaynerchuk talk about this all the time. He's like, we have people who are living fake lifestyles because they're being funded by their parents. Okay. And they also love to complain about, I don't have these things, I should be further, but they haven't really gone into the deep end and had to swim on their own. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And so that's something I've always really, really appreciated about you. It's just like observing you from a distance.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
Damn. Never thought people did that and saw those things that came from way back then. But I can personally see how those lessons affected me later on, you know? Yeah. And I actually call those people back and say, thank you, you know? But being someone that you met me after I was 18, you probably met me when I was 21. Yeah. So the fact that you can actually see that lesson come to fruition into my later life is kind of crazy.
Well, I mean, now that I'm a little bit older, I can see the kind of the path behind people, especially when, you know, we've had the honest talks and we've been hanging out before and you talk about your past and everything like that. I just feel like those early days have been so pivotal and so influential on you that those kind of not only impact your past, but also give you confidence, or at least give me confidence in you as an operator, as somebody who's going to be able to figure it out moving forward. You know what I'm saying? And I remember when you just started working for Just College, and you guys are getting off the ground, that was a great example of everybody else still messing around, taking money from their parents, but you were out there hustling and grinding. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That was a
scary time too.
So why was that time scary?
We were a startup company. I think I was either 20 or 21 when I joined the company. And I was leaving another steady paycheck to join these guys who had an idea, basically. They executed some events and they had some decent tech built into their website. But overall, like, they weren't paying anyone a salary. I was on a draw commission, which means they're going to front me $2,000 a month.
Then you go out and hunt, and then we'll balance it against.
If I don't make sales, I owe them money at the end of the month. I have to pay them back or take it out of my next check to where at the end of the year I can be in a huge default.
Absolutely.
And there was many times during that first year of working with them where cash flow wasn't the best, and the owners knowingly we're not taking a salary just to make sure that the staff could get paid. So to leave like a steady job and just say, hey, I'm going to just like go do this entrepreneur thing with these other guys, and try to be a salesperson when I've never had a corporate sales job before in my life, it was a leap for all of us, right? It was a leap of faith from them doing everything that they were doing. It was a leap of faith for me getting involved. And I'm glad that I did, because when you join a small company of that nature and everyone's wearing multiple hats, you learn so much about how to collect money. Like, I'm not an accountant, but I was still helping the accountant whenever I had downtime. Because if I wasn't making enough sales, I had to show my worth elsewhere. Otherwise, I can be cut.
I mean, that's the mentality. And that's something that, one of the reasons why I wanted to make this podcast in the first place, and we were talking about this before we came on, was to give honest examples of kind of the entrepreneurial journey from both, starting your own company and doing your own thing, which we'll talk about in a little bit in the places that you're at now, but also being a part of a small team that is having to be nimble and flexible and figure stuff out while you're going down the runway. Building the plane as you're trying to take off.
Adaptability is probably the most important characteristic of a startup company. Everyone's got to have all hands on deck, right?
So what were some of the key lessons that you learned early on working for that company that you kind of observed, being young, being malleable at 20, 21 years old, you're looking at these people who are starting up their company? Did you ever have the moment of realizing, I think I can do this someday?
I did. And I actually proposed my own business idea so I can have an out. And I was either saying, hey, let's partner on this, or hey, let's, I think I'm going to put in my notice now. This is my new venture that I'm starting up. And I was brave by telling this to the CEO. I thought I might get funding or something. But I never ended up pursuing the idea at the time. But as I started, let me get back to this because I kind of want to explain to the viewers what the company was.
Absolutely.
So Just College in its infancy was an event and tour operator. So the two types of events that they did at the time that I joined was just straight up like college parties at various campuses where you would take shuttles from the dorms to the club. The club, you get free access plus a drink ticket, and then a ride home back to your dorm in the shuttle. And that, what would cost you typically a $150 a night, they were selling for $89. Right? And you get everything included. You don't have to plan anything. You don't have to worry about what line to go in when you get to the club, etc. Beyond that, they also coordinated shuttles and larger charter buses to music festivals, which they later were able to become a reseller of the music festival ticket. Then they also included hotel packages. So the hotel packages, they would just do a large wholesale purchase on hotels at a discounted rate, resell them for slightly less than the market rate at the time. They were creating basically these tour packages. It started off with just clubs. then festivals. Then we decided, hey, we can actually produce our own festivals out of this and create our own programs.
Yeah.
So the biggest one that we were most famous for was the Cabo Spring Break trip. And essentially what we would do is bulk buy flights, airport transportation shuttles, hotels, either, like 75% of the hotel or the entire hotel bought out.
Yeah.
And then we would function our own events where we'd basically pop up a stage on the beach, hire DJs and hip hop acts to come perform. And for these international trips, you can charge $14.99 to $19.99.
Yeah.
Right. You might be able to buy the whole trip on your own at an equivalent price. Or if you waited till later, definitely a higher price.
Yeah.
But the benefit of booking with us was that you'd save money.
Yep.
And most importantly, you save time and stress.
And the itinerary is established and everything.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
you're doing.
You don't got to think of anything. We take care of everything for you. And you're basically going on like a 5-day vacation with entertainment and travel all planned out.
Yeah.
On a payment plan.
And for a college student, you know what I'm saying? Like that is the move.
Yeah.
Right? I just give my money to one person. They show me where to show up, what time my flight is. I arrive. I do everything there. That's awesome.
So that's the company. I wanted to explain that before we get into me actually like identifying like if I can do this on my own.
Yeah.
The plan that I had was to do like college tours with acts and essentially like when I started thinking of when you hang out with entrepreneurs all the time and you are one yourself in the heart, you start to think of what could I be dishing up.
Yeah.
So I proposed this whole plan that I had, and the idea was, hey, I told the CEO, you started, I think, don't quote me on these numbers, you started your company at 19 or whatever, you're 25 now.
Yeah.
And this is how big your company is.
These guys were young leaders then.
Yeah, he dropped out of school to pursue this because he realized how much money he was making.
Yeah.
So I told the owner, Andrew Satoris, shout out, looked him up on LinkedIn and stuff. He's a great guy. I think you started this at 19. You're 25 now. Look how good you're doing. I'm 21, so if I don't start my own thing right now, I'm not going to be as successful as you until I'm 27.
Right.
So I'm sorry, I got to leave you.
Yeah.
This is my business idea. If you want to become an investor, you can.
Yeah. And what was his reaction?
Oh my gosh. His reaction was, I already have all the permits, insurances for that kind of business. Why don't you just have that as a branch of the business we're already operating? And you can basically spearhead it. We'll work out some sort of deal on the back end. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
Got me.
Kind of gave you like the entrepreneur, right? Be the entrepreneur, but inside of the structure of something you've established.
So I ended up never even actually pulling the trigger on that whole idea. I just stuck with what we had. Like everything at that time when I approached him on this idea was booming.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I just stick to what I know right now. I'll worry about my own venture later.
Yeah.
Because like this is where I start making a ton of money. Yeah. I was already a couple years into sales. I had all my client base. I had reoccurring accounts. I had a name for myself, a reputation around the campuses of like, oh, I'm the guy for this type of thing, right?
Yep.
So if I were to start from scratch, the deal on my end would still be good, probably negotiate something decent, but not as good as how much money I would have made that year.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So that did happen to me.
And so my imagination is when you have an opportunity and you're passionate about pursuing your own version of what you're already doing, right? Yeah. You kind of have to do the cost benefit analysis of like, I could go out on my own and do this. And I know I could be successful because I have the relationship. I've already been through the reps.
Yeah.
But now I've got the compounding behavior and everything that I've been doing for the last 12, 16 months that's going to compound for me. And so did you kind of look at the money as being the equalizer at that point in time?
Money was always the factor for me at that point. Yeah, I was like early 20s still. I don't even think I was 25 at the time. So yeah, money was always the factor. And I'm trying to get out of debt.
Yeah. I
was irresponsible when I was younger, trying to pay off all kinds of stuff.
Makes sense.
I still don't even think at that time owned my first car. Yeah. or I had like a car I bought for $1,000 off of Craigslist.
Yeah.
And then I was using the company car for a while because I was traveling a bunch, and I basically used that as my personal.
Yeah.
And then when that lease was up, I had to get my own first car.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, if I'm barely making power moves of buying my own like actual car that's going to run longer than a year that has my name on it, right? I don't think I'm in a position to like start making these power moves yet, unless I had like heavy investors and an incredible idea.
Yeah.
Which my idea was like decent. It would have made money, but it was nothing like that was a game changer that's never been seen before. Yeah.
And now that we kind of have hindsight of 2020, right? I mean, of hindsight is 2020, but then I bring in 2020 as well when the world shut down.
Yes.
You know
oh
what
my
I'm saying?
goodness.
And this business that was booming at a point in time kind of now falls on itself because we can't go anywhere. And so it must have been somewhat rewarding at that point in time to still recognize you had the skill set, you had banked all the cash from working there, you have all the experience, and now you kind of use this maybe as a pivot to start thinking about pursuing your own thing, or what was that?
Yeah. So that, I think the pandemic is a big reason why I chose to pivot. I was almost forced. I lost my job during the time. They cut a bunch of the company. So in 2018, all right, 2014 is when I joined Just College.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah. Kyle Ross and I were hosting a bunch of parties at UNLV. And I don't know if you were there at any of these, it might have been before you got to UNLV. We were hosting events with like Asher Roth was like one of the headliners.
2012. So I remember all of the events that you were doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
T Mills was one of the headliners. Very small hip hop acts.
Yeah, but you were still pulling names though.
Well, guess who was funding the names?
Who?
The owner of Just College.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Okay. So when he moved his office from San Francisco to Vegas to save money on taxes, business taxes, and have all of his employees be able to afford life, right? San Francisco wasn't the best place for that.
No.
That's where they started because they all lived there.
Yep.
When they moved to Vegas, he basically said, hey, why don't you guys just drop the other company, join our team? Okay, cool. So that was 2014. 2018, actually, we got acquired by another international promoter called Pollen. So we joined that team. Our 35, 45 person team ended up getting into this other company that was about 350 employees. Yeah. Internationally.
Yeah. So let's pause on this for a second. So you guys for years now kind of have your nucleus of your company, right? Now you guys are being told that you're going to be acquired, or is leadership back then telling you guys, hey, listen, we're thinking about rolling this up into something larger. So get ready for what's coming. What was that like?
That is a great question. And I want to talk about this now before I talk about the pivot, because I don't want to mess up the timeline.
Yeah, no, totally got you.
So we will get back to the pivot on how I started my own business. But in 2017, they started bringing these other guys in from London and slowly introducing them to us. And, I don't know what the exact decision was at the time, but it's like we either have to get acquired or we have to get a major investor, or we have to IPO. We are far from IPO. Yeah. I think a lot of investors potentially might have been scared about the business model. We were dealing with thousands of college kids going to party for months at a time, right? It was only like a week sprint per school, but the whole thing would last like 6 weeks over time, because different regions had different spring break times. So I'm assuming that there's a lot of insurance questions that come up in your pitch. But these guys were saying, hey, we just want to build our data. We want you were targeting your exact demographic, and we have an app that can help your business model. At the time, what we were doing is we're using student ambassadors, fraternity and sorority presidents, social chairs, recruitment chairs, student government leaders, cheer team, dance team, football team, basketball team captains to go sell our trips to their friends already within their organization. And then we would compensate them with the free trip themselves. Once they got to 10 or 15 or 20 sales. The guys from London were doing the similar thing, but they were building ambassador programs for music festivals. They were a street team co-promoter essentially. And they would use this business model of ambassadors and to sell tickets for the festivals, music festivals. And they had everything in an app. So we were tracking everything in spreadsheets. Anytime someone said, hey, am I almost at my 10 sales? I'd have to go in the back end, pull a report, organize a spreadsheet by school, by name, screenshot this thing, and then send it to this person in text message.
They had a better tech stack, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. So their pitch to us was like, yo, let us roll out the technology to where these guys can come in as an ambassador within our platform. And every time they make a sale, they'll be able to see the points add into their bucket. And then eventually they can just cash out those points for whatever they wanted. Free trip, backstage passes, comp dinners, limo service, etc. Right? Everything's done through the technology, and you don't have to do anything physical anymore. You're just onboarding the person and helping train them on selling.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it made sense at the time for us to get to pair with them. Gladly in 2018, when the sale happened, they basically acquired us, kept all of our staff. So that was a wild ride. And bringing us to 2020, right? So 2014, we dumped our other company that Kyle Ross was leading, and I was helping him out with that school to join Just College. 2014 to 2018, Just College grew from, I'd say, 12 people when I was there to around 30 or 40 people. And then in 2018, we joined the other company and now became global at around 300 people.
Jeez.
All right, so that was a 2-year sprint, basically, until the pandemic happened. And, so looking back, if I did start my other company in 2017, I probably would have went bankrupt 3 years later. Gladly, I was involved in the sell. Got to get rid of my shares. Have some backup cash. Put a bunch of money towards the down payment on the house. And again, coming from nothing, this was like all amazing for me.
Absolutely.
First person in my family to buy a house, and I'm the youngest. Not only am I'm the youngest of my parents, and obviously my brother and my sister. So when the pandemic happened, we were on spring break. March of 2020 was when everything got announced on the news. So I remember my girlfriend and I, me being one of the leaders on the sales team and having years worth of operational knowledge, and her being the actual director of operations for the program. We were out there, and we had to buy flights home for all the students and just bite the bill. And then all of this production, I'm talking about thousands of dollars worth of stage equipment, trussing, lighting, DJ equipment, speaker stacks, all just there. And we're dealing with, all right, we got to get rid of all the production. We can't just leave this out here while the world's shutting down. We got to get all the kids home. We got to get the staff home. Especially the volunteer staff or the part-time staff that weren't literally on salary with us. And then we can get ourselves home.
Man.
So I thought we were going to be stuck there for a while. And then coming home, I didn't even really think about the repercussions of me. Crazy to think that I would get cut. I was like, there's no way I'm getting cut.
Right. When you said that a little bit earlier, you're the company started laying people off. I'm like, damn, bro, you were there from the very beginning.
Yes.
One of the people.
Exactly. So I'm there for almost 10 years. I'm part of basically 2 different acquisitions. I've had knowledge for days. But then I think I was a part of the first round of cuts. And so I'm starting to think back on it. Why would this happen to me? I don't know if this is me just trying to be defense mechanism, make myself feel better, or if this could be the reality is at the point I was not necessarily selling anymore. I wasn't the one going in the field. I was managing nationally a bunch of people who were doing that. I was involved in training them and helping send them out. So they kept a lot of the people who were on the ground that could still actually help sell directly. And then they had lower salaries as well.
I mean, from my perspective, looking at the business, I would be like, okay, so who's generating revenue for us right now? We need to keep those people. Everybody who's above them and or underneath them, from an infrastructure perspective, can we get away with letting them go? Maybe. You know what I mean? So that's got to be really tough. What was kind of that has to be an emotional experience. I think a lot of people are going through this right now, especially when they get laid off from a job.
Yeah.
You know, Zoom, as an example, a company that I'm close to, laid off 1,300 people. Mm-hmm. I met them when they were a team of 64. So seeing in 2023 that now they lay off 1,300, and it's been people who have been there before I even met the small team, that was like, dude, that has to feel a certain way. Do you know what I mean? Like, do you feel betrayed? Do you feel kind of like...
I did for a day, you know, but then I try not to dwindle on those type of things and like keep that bad energy in my mind or in myself.
Yeah.
So that's why I easily came to the conclusion, if I was within 24 hours, I started thinking to myself, I was them, would I cut someone with one of the highest salaries on the staff?
Yeah.
That's actually not in the field.
Right.
Right. And in my head, I said, yes, it makes sense. I keep someone who's making half or even less than that on salary wise, so they can keep their costs low, but also still potentially generate money.
Yeah.
Was I willing to go back in the field?
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. But I don't know if I would have been willing to take a 50% decrease on salary.
Yeah.
So I came to a conclusion on that really quick. My girlfriend, again, works for the company as well. She was let go for a few days, actually.
Yeah.
She got brought back in really quickly as someone's personal assistant.
Okay.
An executive assistant.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, rather than getting rid of her, I'd rather have her join my team. So she came back pretty quickly. I never got that call back.
Yeah.
At the time. So I was already pondering what's my next step.
Yeah.
Gladly, little do you know, I had already been thinking about my businesses since 2017. So for 3 years, I had been putting a ton of money aside.
Yeah.
I had already figured out what licenses and city permits and insurances and stuff I needed to get. I already figured out how to make a website and all that. So actually the next day, like I literally wasted no time. I got over the fact, put it into perspective, and I thought to myself, literally like the next day, all right, the government's going to pay me $1,000 a week to chill at home.
Yeah.
They're going to pay me $1,000 a week to pay my bills, make music, and help me build my business that I'm literally launching the next day. Not launching the next day, but prepping to launch that next day.
And I think that that's the biggest difference that I recognize. Like when the pandemic was occurring, everybody started getting this extra cash from the government.
Yeah.
And to be very frank, they blew it on a whole bunch of stupid stuff. Buying new TVs, doing stuff, going on vacations, or saving up money to go on vacations, buying new cars.
It helped the economy though.
It helped the economy. I completely agree with that. But, you know, I feel like either you have a decision to make in that moment is like, okay, am I going to go all in on myself and use the government money to actually kind of seed my round to get up and moving?
Yeah.
Or am I going to sit back and kind of just wait for the storm to pass?
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, because reality is like with roommates at my house, I'm not paying the whole mortgage.
That's what I'm saying. Like a large majority of the mortgage is covered.
Yeah.
Not all of it, for sure.
Some utilities split between, at the time was like 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
A smaller car payment. And so like if I can get away with spending only $2,000 on my expenses, I'm basically profiting $2,000 free of charge by not actually working, working on what I want to do and just getting to invest that money. $2,000 can literally cover so many flyers, business cards, website, domain, like
it's everything that you need to get your idea moving.
Done.
Yeah, exactly.
So I actually had the license in 2019. I was super busy with work, so I didn't do much with it.
Yeah.
I was taking some side gigs with the license. But I don't even think enough at the end of the year to actually even like enough track at the end of the year to actually even have to file for taxes on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was such a quick pivot. All right, boom. Website's launching pretty soon after the pandemic, or like I'm laid off.
Yeah.
All the marketing materials already starting to get in design like right away. I'm pumping out music. I'm building a portfolio.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all happened. And the reason why I'm kind of grateful for the pandemic is I had 100% match 401k.
Yep.
Full dental and health coverage and vision. I was making close to 6 figures, if not more, after commissions. And unlike what I had to do before to get close to that, I wasn't traveling at all.
Right.
I had a daily routine where I can wake up, go to the gym, hit the office from 9 to 5, go home, make dinner, work on for an hour on prep work for the next day, and then be able to have some time for myself, whether I want to go for a walk in the park, watch a movie. And that was so comfortable.
Yeah.
Being able to know that I can eat 3 meals a day, hit the gym, get work done, and still have me time at the end of the day, because routines were easy at the time. It was hard to get a routine when I was on the road as a salesperson 6 months out of the year.
Absolutely.
So to have the money, have the benefits, have the 401k, have the routine that I wanted, I don't know if I would have ever left it if it wasn't for me being basically forced to try out my new thing.
Yeah, something that's outside of your control.
Yeah.
Right. And so I want to use this as a transition to talk about the business and businesses that you've started since then.
Okay.
So I remember to this day, like it was yesterday, I'm on the phone with you, trying to catch up, hearing about what's going on during the...
You were in Hawaii at this time?
In Hawaii at the time.
Yep.
And you go, I really think I'm going to go all in on this music thing. And I remember this conversation of you being like, yeah, man, I really think I'm going to start like doing it. And I was like, okay. And it was one of those moments where I listened to the conviction in your voice and I was like, this kid has the experience and has gone through enough hardship and trial by fire to be successful. I can't wait to see where this is going to go. Click. And so give everybody kind of an idea of what was going on there.
And before I start, I just want to say the reason why I feel comfortable telling someone like Keenan this is because not a lot of people in my circle already had businesses, but he did, right? So there's certain things I talk to about certain people. I'm not going to blab to somebody about business stuff. They have no idea what I'm talking about or they get bored by the topic.
Yeah.
You're the type of person I can talk to about this forever, hence why we're here on camera. And for those listening, hopefully you're taking a lot of these things and applying it to your own lives. But when I decided to go all in, the company at the time was called Spotlight Entertainment LLC. SPTLGHT, all capital letters. It was something that was not found online yet, right? But it's easy to identify, Spotlight. And I thought it was like cool. It had some flavor. It gave it some uniqueness. Spotlight at the time was a music and media agency. So basically you can purchase DJ services off of us. You can purchase sound rentals off of us. You can also do media. The media is all over the place. You can do business media for your merchandise. We can come shoot your real estate and your new houses that you're trying to sell. Yeah. We also did event recaps. Today, we've shifted to where we're purely focused on events. Yeah. It's music services for events, right? DJs, cover bands, sound and lighting. Yeah. And then the media is just literally recap videos of events. Yeah. Or photography albums of the events. At the time, I was just trying to be all over the place, but I realized I needed to quickly focus on a niche like service.
And why did you have that moment of realization? So I know when people start their entrepreneurial journey, like a lot of people are like, I need to do all of this stuff. So did you kind of have a recognition of, if I have 100% of my energy, 10% is going this way, 10% is going that way, 15, 20, and then if I focus on one area, I can be more effective?
That's exactly it.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's the area that I knew the best, right? So if I'm talking to someone about a real estate shoot and I'm not in the business, I'm just kind of like BSing what I know about media, but not really speaking their language on the real estate end. Yeah. From merchandise shoots, like I've never started a merchandise brand before, so like I can talk media, but I didn't really talk their language on the merch side. Anything that came in with music or events, the industry I just left for 10 years, literally traveling, Migos, Steve Aoki, Wiz Khalifa. I have those things that I can say, hey, I've operated events of 10,000, I've helped operate events of 10,000 people with these large acts. This is why you should use us. Right. I've gone through the motions. I've seen it at this intimate level events, and I've seen at very large events. So anything you throw at me, I'm confident we can handle. Absolutely. So it made me better as a salesperson and it made our services on the website more focused. Yeah. So let me ask you, I want to use this for a second. So this is really good. So, one of the things that people talk about a lot in sales is the right sales pitch, the right words to use, right? Yeah. And often people get hung up on, what am I saying? What is the script? But, a lot of people say, and one person I look up to says, there is no better replacement for your ability to sell than conviction. Yeah.
When you know that you've done these things in the past and you have the experience that you can speak to and be like, yo, listen, like, I'm not trying to BS you here. This is what I've done before.
Yeah, they could read that too.
100%.
Yeah, so when you're saying that story, they can tell if you're faking it or not, right? You people read energies.
Absolutely.
So if you are saying this story, which is a real story, they can go back on your Instagram or your LinkedIn and see photos from the past. Mm-hmm. It almost is even easier to close it because, like, if they did the research and then saw that what sounded to be real to them, they did research and saw, oh, this actually happened before.
Yeah.
All right, done. I'm buying from this guy. He's not faking us out. He does have the experience. Even if it costs $1,000 more to use you than the other person, I feel more comfortable using you.
Absolutely. Right. It's like that transference of like trust almost, and be like, I'm going to take care of this. You know what I mean? That's really cool, because I often hear, you know, a lot of younger people you see like on Instagram and stuff like that who are like, in order to sell, you have to do these type of manipulation techniques. Right. Yeah. But it's like when you have a track record of success, you don't have to do any of that.
Yeah.
You know,
you're selling yourself. You're selling your history.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like, that's just so powerful.
So there's a couple other brands under Spotlight Entertainment now. That's the overarching brand. And then we have a couple of sub brands. And people always ask me, why do you have all these sub brands? It's so hard to keep up with all your businesses. Well, I'm not trying to do this for my friend. My friend's not the end consumer. There's people out there that are searching these services or these things. They're the end consumer. And I don't want to confuse them. Right. If I put everything on one website, you can't just have 25 tabs at the top and then you're just trying to like purchase all these things. Who knows what, right? So I always thought of this example, like when you go to something like McDonald's, you're like looking at this whole menu, like trying to figure out what you want this time around. Yeah. When you go to In-N-Out, you walk in. Before you even walk in, you already know what you're getting. Oh, man. So the sell happens faster. Exactly. And you're pumping out these, you see the lines in In-N-Out. Yeah. And the same goes with Chick-fil-A, right? When they talk about, like, there's a rule, which is the 80-20 rule, right? Where 80% of your revenue, for example, as a business comes from 20% of your customers. The same thing, talk about when you have a business model like Chick-fil-A or In-N-Out Burger, we have 80% of our revenue, which comes from 20% of our items, which is chicken sandwiches. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And so I feel like there are so many lessons to be learned for people who are younger entrepreneurs or want to start their own stuff. It's like you have to focus and really become really good at this if you're going to be successful. Can I bring it back for just a second? Yeah. JustCollege.com, when they first started, was everything collegiate. Yeah. You can buy textbooks. You can buy food deliveries to your dorm rooms. Yeah. You can buy t-shirts and merch of your university. You can buy the event services. What they realized is that what they were good at and where the most money was being made was in the event services. After taking an audit and almost going bankrupt, they had to say, okay, let's ditch all the other items that are taking away our energy but making minimal amount of profit and focus on the events, the college-focused events. And that's why they were able to scale into a multi-million-dollar business, go into some of the biggest venues and party locations in the world, right? So I took that same thing. A lot of the things that I'm doing right now are basically things that I learned at my old job. Yeah. And just replicating lessons that they failed at before, and then basically counting them before they happen in my own business. And this is a really good lesson that I feel like younger entrepreneurs can learn. It's when we're early in our careers, I think so many people get confused with the idea that I want to earn rather than learn. Okay. So you have the ability to be an intrapreneur, like we talked about a little bit earlier, and you can learn underneath another business and get experience and really be observing the things that people are doing wrong, but what also they're doing well. Do you know what I'm saying? And you can use that time to get paid, build up your bankroll, create that security. So when it's time to go out, you've got the lessons learned, the experience, and the bankroll to be able to kind of survive. 100%. You know what I'm saying? Not everyone listening to this is going to actually want to be an entrepreneur and own their own business. That's fine. For the people that are, right, whatever entry-level job you get out of college or whatever, literally stick around the office and hang around other departments. Kind of just study what they're doing. Yes. Right? You may not be in marketing, but understand what is the brand. What fonts are you using on your website? What color schemes are you using on all your flyers, business cards, website, you name it, commercials? These are things I never took a branding class. I'm learning this from watching other departments, right? I'm sitting in the accounting department listening to how they're collecting money for people that owe us money in a nice way towards not causing any friction. Yeah. Right. I'm voluntarily asking to do other jobs if I'm not super stacked up that week. And then when I left, I'm studying what do these contracts look like? If I can't afford my own lawyer, I can just replicate the exact contract that this business was doing. They're obviously doing it right. They're dealing with some of the largest acts in the business.
Absolutely right.
The production's costing $1 million. So they've definitely got this ran by a legal team.
Yeah.
When I leave here, I'm going to take that exact template of what they were doing in this situation or that situation, and then replicate it and implement it into my own thing later.
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to lie. There are some decks out there, like pitch decks, that we were using for sales. I was a sales guy. I saved them to my computer before I got logged out of my email.
Yeah.
I'm not ripping off the whole pitch deck, but I am using the basis of that. It
as
worked.
a framework. 100%.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah. And recreate the wheel when I already have the document from another company before that was successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a great example that I want to say Russell Brunson talks about, and he's the guy who created ClickFunnels, if you're familiar with it.
Yeah, I know Russell.
Okay, awesome, sweet. So Russell talks about, he had an early experience with, who's the inspirational speaker named Tony Robbins? Tony Robbins. Yes, Tony Robbins was like, you often make mistakes of thinking that you have to invent something new. Why wouldn't you just go out into the marketplace and model what is already successful and then put your own twist on it to make it your own?
Gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Like the same thing example. If you know a system works, if you know contracts work, if you know contracts are frameworked, if you know agreements are frameworked a certain way, you don't need to go out there and do that kind of stuff yourself. You can just model what else is going on. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's so much output in the world that modeling things that are already out there is not a bad thing.
So Spotlight Entertainment as a business model, there's two other competitors in Las Vegas who are pretty much doing the exact same thing.
Right.
They are larger than me at this time. I technically say, even though I had the license in 2019, I was barely using it.
Yeah.
2020 pandemic, 2021 pandemic. I would say we only actually truly been operating since the later half of 2021.
Yeah.
Right. So going on a year and some change. I have aspiration to be as big as them.
Yeah.
I want to get into their eyes, and either merge with them and be able to take our expertise to the next level because we have two great teams, or potentially find an out on my end and sell to them, my book of business to them. And who knows, if the company is valued at $1, $2, $4, $5 million, that can be, what funds the next thing that I want to partake in.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely not a bad thing to do something that's already been done. You have Sprite.
Yeah. Sierra Mist,
7-Up, right? So, so many examples of that.
Part of that mentality that I like to think about as well is there's so much abundance in the world that we are never taking away from somebody else's by also winning. You know what I'm saying? Like there's too much money literally out here for your business to be competing with other people and thinking that because Lionel's winning that these other two companies can't win as well. You know what I mean? But it also gives us an opportunity to kind of reframe what success looks like to an entrepreneur. Because I think, one of the biggest problems that I see with younger entrepreneurs today is everybody wants to be a millionaire. Everybody also wants to have $1 billion company. Everybody wants to do these gigantic things that social media and other platforms have made seem normal, but they're really not. Do you know what I mean? Like the average income in the United States, if you want to be a top 1%er, you need to make $400,000 a year. That is not $1 million. Do you know what I'm saying? So like there is a large arbitrage between the people who have the very, very tip top and everybody else who can be successful and still be in that 1%. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I totally get it.
Because I'm trying to think about as I build a business, as I've gotten a little bit older, I think about what does a business that's successful actually represent to me? For me, it's freedom. For me, it's the ability to do the things that I want to do. It's to wake up every single day and be passionate about what I'm doing, be able to operate a business with my family. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't need to have the stresses of a 100, a 200, a 400, a 500, $1 billion company.
Yeah, there's a lot that comes with that.
There's a lot. And a lot of people aren't made for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what does business success represent to you? Are you there right now?
No, I am not there. We did $170,000 in revenue last year.
Okay.
At about a 40% margin.
Yeah. So a good, healthy business.
And what I would want it to be, the next goal is 350,000.
Yeah.
The following year is 500,000. The next year, I'd like it to be $1 million brand. And if we can stay at that 40% margin, that's a really good thing on our ends.
Yeah.
My goal is $1 million in revenue at a 30 to 40% margin. I just want to see on that paper at the end of the year that I was able to bring in $1 million worth of sales.
Yes.
I've done it with other companies in the past.
Yes.
I want to do it for my own.
Right.
And I don't know why. I just want to be able to say that.
Yeah.
Right? I've always wanted to say making over $100,000.
Yes.
Ilya, one of our good friends from college, in his room on his whiteboard, he had this thing that said 100,000 by 30. And I always asked him, like, oh, what is that? What is that? Oh, that's the goal that I want to achieve by the time I'm 30.
Yeah.
Okay. And he would say, if you write it down, it has more of a chance of becoming a reality.
Yeah.
And I was young at the time. I didn't realize there was different tactics you can use to help. I don't know whether it's a manifestation or just your pure confidence or just literally you are creating these energies that are becoming a reality later. Whatever it may be, I don't know if there's any scientific proof. I said, all right, I need to write that down.
Yeah.
I want to make $100,000 by the time I'm 30. So it did happen at like 31.
Yeah.
I was at like 90 something by the time I was 30, which I was still happy about.
Yeah.
I was close to the goal. Now, I'm not really worried about, I'm just setting the number because I want to have that goal. And I think that next number for me is 1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think
I want to be $1 million business.
I completely agree, but like what I would say is going to have a huge determinant on your success is the work that you're already putting in. Do you know what I mean? The one thing that I think about that I've really started to focus on as I get a little bit older is kind of my habits and how my habits are the things that create the lagging indicators of success. So if I have a habit of going to the gym every single day, the lagging indicator is me being in shape because I'm putting in the work and building the habit on the front end, and it's almost leading in this invisible trail of energy. And the lagging indicator behind it is my physical shape. The same thing happens if you're putting in the work every single day. If you establish a habit of putting in the work consistently, the success is a lagging indicator behind it. And so one thing that I think you need to do a better job of in general as younger people is recognizing that things take time.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And you have to put in work for a minute in order for the result to actually like manifest itself behind you.
I totally get that.
It's huge for me.
Bringing me back to the just college days, the first year I actually lost money. Again, I was on a draw commission.
Yeah.
I got $24,000 at the end of that year. I didn't make $24,000 in sales.
Yeah.
I actually owed them money. Because I picked up so much slack around the office and I was just a genuine nice person, they ended up waiving it from me.
Yeah.
I think the next year I ended up making like $28,000, so I profited like $4,000 on top of the money that they fronted me.
Yeah.
Then the third year, I got put into salary plus commission. I was making like 60. Then I was like getting 65. Then I was in the close 90s. So like it took me 5 years to get from 24,000 to less than 24,000.
Yeah.
Owing them money, right?
Yeah.
$20,000 at the end of the year in my sales journey to be able to make commissions that and pay that added up to 90,000.
Right.
But 5-6 years in the making of hard work, learning, trial and error, much failure on many things that I thought would work out but didn't. Yeah. In order to get in the position where I set myself up to almost achieve that goal of 100K.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this as a 5-year plan. Can I get to that 1 million within 5 years? And I know if I just keep putting in that work, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big thing that I've been thinking about a lot over the last year is the philosophy of trying to give myself a longer time horizon.
Okay.
So the longer time horizon is kind of the analogy of like the bigger the plane, the bigger the runway.
Okay.
Right. If you're trying to do things that are larger, you need to give yourself more time to get there. And when you give yourself a longer time horizon to accomplish things, you make different types of decisions. If I had to tell you that you had to lose 10 pounds in 3 days, what type of things would you be doing?
Cutting, eating.
Eating, crash diet, working out, doing all that kind of stuff. But if I told you you had to lose 10 pounds in a year, you would make different decisions that would make sure you were successful long term.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But like the approach to those situations would be completely different.
Okay.
I look at the same thing as being true in business.
Okay.
If we want to be successful, how do we reverse engineer our success long term? So it's like if I told you in order to make $1 million, you had to put in work every single day, and by the 10-year point, you would be guaranteed to make that money. Then you wouldn't really be tripping because you're like, okay, this is going to take time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just like change my mindset when it comes to accomplishing things and give myself more time.
Okay.
Because I start to realize that time goes by so quickly that the things that seem like they're really far out there really are not that far. Like, could you imagine that we would be plus 30 years old when you think about how long ago we met, like at UNLV in 2012?
Yeah.
But like how quickly did that time go by?
So yeah, over a decade already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. But if we're consistent in trying to just implement and be consistent at showing up every single day and mastering that skill of doing the work.
Are you saying that'll just come along with the ride?
It comes along with the ride. Do you know what I mean? It's like a byproduct of just doing the work every single day.
So the reason why I do the 5-year plan, one, it's just a standard practice that you find online. People talk about it often. I've just applied it to my life in so many different occasions. I know that's how long it takes for me to master something.
Okay.
And so thinking about high school, 4-year program.
Yeah.
When I came in, I was a schmuck.
Yeah.
Failing grades, barely coming. Got myself into shape. By the time I graduated, I was a straight A student.
Yeah.
I had an advanced diploma, but I had to bust my ass to make up for all the failed classes earlier on.
Yeah.
When I joined the fraternity and in college, when I came in, I didn't even know what a fraternity was.
Right.
I had no idea how to run a business, never managed a budget in my life. And then within 5 years, I was president. Our organization was nationally known, a top 25 percentile of over 150 chapters across all the states.
Yep.
And so graduated, right? So I just always know myself. It takes me 5 years to really learn what I want to do, how I want to do it, and then go perform at the highest level I possibly can. So yes, I wouldn't be upset with myself if it didn't happen within by 2028 or whatever, 2027, my business goals. But I know from past life experiences, you put me somewhere for 4 or 5 years, I'm going to learn everything I need to know. Yeah. I'm going to I'm just going to get the failures away as quick as possible. And within 4 or 5 years, I will be executing at one of the highest levels of anyone that may want to compete with me at that one particular thing. Yeah.
I mean, that sense of self-awareness, that sense of confidence, I think is profound, and you might laugh because you're like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like that's me. But like that in itself, that self-awareness is a superpower. You know what I'm saying? One thing that you said there that really stuck with me was I get the failures out of the way as quick as possible. What does that mean to you?
The things that I don't know how to do. I don't wait to hire somebody. I'm not waiting for a volunteer or an intern to come across my lap. If I need to get a website launched and I don't have the money to do it, I just go in, I start clicking every single button, learning what it does. If I go click publish on the website and it crashes because I did something wrong, I go click around and figure out what the mistake was. The website's not that good, but I have it up and running, right? That was an exact example of what I did. I didn't have the capital at the time, so I just did it myself. Had a consultant come in and say, oh, dude, you need to spice up your SEO. You need to have all these keywords. You need to rename your images from image 123 to Las Vegas DJ provider, right? That images also provide value to your SEO, the image names. Obviously, you're probably aware of this, saying that for the consumer. But a year or two later, I'm learning that I made that mistake. So now, not only do I know how to make a website myself, I went through a second version where when I went in and did the SEO spice up, I actually rebranded it and made it look nicer because now I knew what I was doing. Now I could pump out a website in 48 hours where it looks nice, has all the appropriate things needed to be searched properly, and I don't got to pay nobody. But Yeah, it's just more so just taking action right away versus like thinking someone's going to get it done for you.
Yeah. So Alex Ramosi, a guy who I follow online, he talks about we can become proficient at 20 hours of work in pretty much anything that we do.
Okay.
But it takes most people years to start that first hour. And the reason why I wanted to kind of key in on I get the failures out of the way is because I feel like one of the biggest hindrances that people have to success is that fear of failure. I'm not sure if that comes from the structure and the infrastructure of going through school and realizing that every single time we failed, we got slapped on the hand. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
But it's like when you're an entrepreneur, you get paid to test and fail. And the quicker you fail, the more successful you will be.
Let's bring us back to these examples then.
Okay.
Is there a moment in your life when you were a kid where you decided to do something that you may have not been that totally good at, but you ended up failing at it? Whether you embarrassed yourself or not, you got that out of the way, which made you more confident to the next attempt.
So when I was younger in middle school, I got the award of 7th and 8th grade of trendsetter.
Okay.
And so I'm not sure if this was just part of my mentality back then, but I was never afraid to be the first person to do something.
Okay.
Because I had I don't know if it was like the self-confidence that my parents gave me, but it was like, I wasn't afraid for people to be like, aha. Because one thing I realized the first time I did it, people laughed. And then the second time, less people laughed. The third time,
they were doing
everybody
it too.
was doing it as well. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so I started to learn that like you can go out on your own and you can kind of fail first. And if you're willing to stand up in front of the crowd and take an L, then you're almost viewed as like a superhero.
Cool.
You know what I mean? But like a lot of people today, and I even still deal with this like as an insecurity, I don't want to publicly fail. Because of the infrastructure of everything that surrounds us, Instagram, all the other kind of stuff, I feel like we get looked at negatively because we live in a PR world where everything is everybody's successes. Do you know what I mean? So like the mentality of saying I get the failures out quickly is something that I feel like a lot of people need to lean into because it has a direct correspondent with your ability to be successful.
And this is not even business.
This is
everyday life.
Yeah.
The moment I bring myself back to is elementary school. There was 2 things that I did around like 4th or 5th grade was I ran for student council president and I had to make a speech in front of the whole school. The other thing was I joined this like a reading program where you had to memorize a book and then re-say it to the school.
Wow.
Not a long book, right? But you're basically like a play, like a solo play or a monologue type of thing. I had this thing where I grew up where the waiter would come to the table and ask me what I wanted, and my parents would make me order it myself versus me pointing. But I had a hard time speaking to the waiter because I was nervous, or I don't know. She was a stranger. He was a stranger. So I'd whisper to my sister and have her order for me. Right? Or I'd get to the counter and I'd feel confident like I wanted to say my order. If they weren't coming to the table, I'd go to the counter. And then right before I was about to speak at the counter of what I wanted at Taco Bell, when I'm with my family, I would freeze up. So I knew from such an early age, like literally, I'm like, what is first, second grade, 7, 8 years old? I knew in 3rd and 4th grade, I need to work on these things. And so I put myself in a position to do it in front of as many people as possible that I kind of knew and they knew me. So that way, when I went out into the world and I was facing a stranger or someone I was intimidated by, I wouldn't have that issue anymore. But this is not someone telling me to do this.
It was
I voluntarily went and did that speaking program and then did the speech to become student council president. And because I was able to identify that really early on and face those fears by the time I even got to middle school, I mean, dude, I was already leap years ahead of where I wanted to be. But I want people to know, like, I was literally that guy that didn't want to see himself in a video camera or hear his voice or couldn't barely order from a server at a restaurant because I was dead afraid to look them in the eyes or make an interaction with them. So that has nothing to do with business. But I think it wraps, I guess it does, because it kind of wraps into my sales confidence today. I'm willing to get on the phone call. I'm willing to go into a meeting with a high-level executive and have that confidence. But that did not start yesterday. That started in elementary school. So the sooner you can start facing these kind of fears or failures, the faster you'll get to where you want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a great lesson to kind of wrap on today, because I know we got to get out of here. But, you know, just hearing your perspective and, you know, you sharing your stories about personal growth, the experiences that you had going through just college, and then, you know, you starting on your own entrepreneurial journey. We definitely have to do this again because there's so much more we could talk about.
Yeah, I didn't even talk about the other 3 brands underneath Spotlight Entertainment, but it's fine. Definitely don't want to ramble. I appreciate you even having me today.
Yeah, man.
And I appreciate you allowing me to share a couple stories. I hope there's some people that watch this video and it kind of resonates with them. And there's just so many people that I meet that think that I'm successful right away. Got nice clothes on. I'm DJing the largest clubs in the city, right? My business is doing well. Without ever actually knowing where I've come from, nor do they ask. So if people watching this video can actually hear that I came from the same depths and hardships and trial and errors as you all, hopefully it'll inspire you to also keep trying as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're a perfect example of the grind, man, the heart and the hustle of what it takes to be successful. And that's why I wanted to bring you on and share you with the audience, because, you know, your story is valid. Your story is something that I think we can all see a little bit of ourselves in as well. Those moments of coming across hardship, leaning into ourselves, taking leaps of faith, and then being able to rally on that success is just super powerful, bro.
Yep. Always got to do it.
Yeah.
If you think it's a good idea, you just got to do it.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you, dog. Thanks so much, man. Thanks for coming on.
Much love, brother.
Seriously, dog. Appreciate you. And we'll just cut it right there.
Peace.